Okay, people might be surprised to see this author included here, but this author is a master. Jack Handey is so funny. He's so hilarious. You can't be this funny and not be intelligent. This guy wrote for the pre-recorded commercials for Saturday Night Live and sketches for Saturday Night Live, some really funny sketches, some of which are collected in What I'd Say to the Martians, that book there. There's this sketch called Deer Heads in here that check, 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 check. Jack Handey is so funny. This is kind of a mixed bag of various things he wrote. Look at that. My favorite deep thoughts is one chapter. My first day in hell. Attila the Hun's greatest speech. Reintroducing me to my habitat. How I want to be remembered. Oh, Toons is the cat who could drive a car. That's such a funny sketch. He wrote those sketches. An unfrozen caveman lawyer. Deerheads is my favorite. Oh, Happy Fun Ball is very funny too. Hi, welcome to my deer heads. The heads are just increasingly small. This is a little miniature deer I got as a pet. This is a mouse. It goes through a microscope, mounted on the wall. I don't know if you can get your camera in there or not. Announcer, this has been an insane idiot and his collection of descending-sized deer heads. This guy has lived in Santa Fe, and I've met people that knew him pretty well, and I recently worked with someone that had worked with his wife. I'm like, what? Here's what he's most famous for: the deep thoughts and the posters and the commercials on Saturday Night Live. And these books are funny, and you can get them as cards. And when I was 16, this is really weird, I had a stroke. What the heck? And Aubrey Plaza had one when she was young too, and it does happen sometimes, but I still don't know what that's about. But anyway, while I was recovering in the hospital, because like half my body went paralyzed for 4 days, people would come and visit me, and my brother-in-law, my sister Leanne's husband Phil, then brother-in-law, he brought this book and read it to me, and I remember like just little flickers of light and merriment and happiness at a time when I felt as bad as you could feel. For 6 months, I did not feel human after that. Having a stroke's crazy. I was at the mall drinking an Orange Julius. It was the 90s, man. Then I saw this lady from church. I threw up. I fell over, and then my left side didn't work. My friend that I was with was like, dude, what's going on with you? Your face looks weird. Then at home, my mom was like, we need to take you to the doctor. You're slurring your words. Your face looks off. The doctor was all, this boy's had a stroke. Honestly, I don't know that you ever fully recover from something like that. Sometimes looking in the mirror, I can see like a slight droop on my left side. And I've always been just a little strange. But these are hilarious. Sorry for that digression. Jeez. The first thing was I learned to forgive myself. And I told myself, go ahead and do whatever you want. It's okay by me. But I was a child. There were times when we had to entertain ourselves. And usually the best way to do that was to turn on the TV. This one is so familiar to me now that it doesn't make me laugh like it used to, but it used to definitely make me laugh. If trees could scream, would we be so cavalier about cutting them down? We might if they screamed all the time for no good reason. I mean, that's just a jewel. The crows seem to be calling his name without a caw. I think a good gift for the president would be a chocolate revolver. And since he's so busy, you'd probably have to run up to him real quick and hand it to him. It's funny how two simple words, I promise, will stall people for a while. So this book is so great. The premise, I don't know what happened to the jacket, but this book was written, I've read in interviews, with the idea of what if I took the voice of all the deep thoughts and made that an actual character and gave him a little adventure. It's such a strange book because the world that the main character moves through is a ridiculous one too, but it works. It's so funny. There's big laughs in this book. Stench of Honolulu. When he was doing press for this, a friend of mine got to interview him, and I've said this before, but mentioned a Twitter feed that I was writing at the time called A Broken GPS, about this like demonically possessed GPS that was trying to kill the driver. And Jack Handey said something about like being happy to being inspiring other people to seek out elegant minimalist humor or something. The real ones know, the real Jack Handey fans know fuzzy memories. It's really this guy's name. People used to think it was a pseudonym for Al Franken. No. Jack Handey has joked in interviews that he once, and in book back cover blurbs, I think, real person. Emmy award-winning comedy writer. He used to live in Manhattan. Some people believe that Jack Handey is the made-up name of an imaginary character, an idea that Handey is trying to promote among his creditors. I think a good quote is Benjamin Franklin saying, "You can fake intelligence, but you can't fake wit." Truly funny stuff and humor that ages well is so rare. It's almost not even a flaw if the humor doesn't age well. It's just a very zeitgeisty art form. But sometimes, universal currents are found and stuff does age well. Physical comedy of the silent era and detailed, hilarious descriptions of P.G. Wodehouse. Jack Handey, seriously. He really was an evident influence, and an influence I saw acknowledged on Twitter, of the poet Mark Leidner. And Mark Leidner had a really funny book of poems. It was also just a really good book of poems that I used to have. And I had interacted with him some on social media. But it's interesting to see who's influenced by what. Leidner said he was also influenced by those book of top 10 lists from The Late Show with David Letterman. And I had those too, and I had all those, but I didn't feel that they aged as well as Jack Handey has aged. Jack Handey has imitators. There's like whole long lists of like Jack Handey imitation deep thoughts. And some of them are funny. Like, when I die, I want to die. Wait, that one that's like, when I die, I want to die peacefully, like my grandfather in his sleep, not screaming and on fire like the passengers in his car. That's not a Jack Handey one, but like he's inspired, like, I don't know, a whole comedic style. That's when you know you're dealing with a great. When you're just like, whoa, you just put a stamp on comedy with your voice. It's so great. Like I could, even before What I'd Say to the Martians came out, I could spot a Jack Handey skit on Saturday Night Live watching old episodes. I mean, or just bit. His voice is so particular. He's funny. And there's some very good interviews with him where you just see that he's a master, and the way that he's thinking about comedy is so minimalist and focused and interesting. People who study music really wonder about the definition, but people who study literature, we don't talk about it all that much. What is literature? I mean, is literature anything you read and appreciate? I mean, I had a shelf just there with 5 different authors on it, and Jack Handey was one of them. And Willa Cather, Cormac McCarthy, Tim O'Brien, Edward Abbey, and Jack Handey. That's a funny group. I'd read a comic book about their adventures, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen style. I joked in a previous video that it's like some sort of psychological portrait of me. But just as Nietzsche said, I wouldn't want to take part in any revolution that didn't have dancing. And the Matrix sequels agreed. I don't think I'd want to be part of any literary world that didn't have laughter, joy. I mean, it's the visceral. Why is the only good visceral the higher literary stuff like tears and a poignant, bittersweet smile? A laugh's a great reaction. Humor does age poorly sometime, but that's just one more thing to navigate as a creator. If you can write funny aphoristic stuff, I feel like it's one of those things that at times in my life I've been able to tap into those strains. I had some very successful, fun Twitter feeds. And one in the voice of Mitt Romney, but it was like an insane Mitt Romney. It wasn't even political. It was like surrealistic. It It made me laugh. Samantha Bee was following it. That's wild. And then I had one for that German Pope called Secret Pope Benny. Secret Mitt Romney was a Mitt Romney one. But the Pope version that I had, he was taking these like bat blood serum treatments that was turning him into a giant bat. And he had a dolphin wife that he left to go live with in the sea at the end. And then I had the broken GPS one. And I wrote a series of like deep thought, like aphorisms, like fuzzy memory, like, but no, they were their own thing. But I definitely had Jack Handey in mind. They were from a depressed suburban father perspective, kind of a caricature of my own self at the time. And I eventually collected them as notes from a slowly dying suburbanite, and the Baltimore Review published them as an essay. And I think they were also funny. But they were things like, today my children discovered baby talk, and with it, the limits of my love. The comedic muses are very specific muses, and if they ever sing to you, it's awesome. Once in a while, I just feel like writing something funny. My book will be a real patchwork of elements like that. And I hope to have one chapter in book 2 that's scary. That's like a nonfiction work of horror. Art and the visceral, there's an overlap. There's a controversial guru guy, Osho, I think I heard his name is, said, when you laugh, you obliterate the ego. And in that moment, there is no self. There's only like joy or something. Yep, that's an exact quote. It's true what Franklin said. You can fake intelligence, but you can't fake wit. You find the writers that make you laugh. For me, it's Jack Handey, A Confederacy of Dunces, P.G. Wodehouse, my brother Rob, who has gears I hope the world will get to see, like writing for a different audience. He wants to adapt some of his old books that he wrote for a smaller audience, for like an adult mainstream audience. I think it's a great idea. My brother could be a very funny writer. Oh, Nick Hornby gets good laughs, but he always mixes it with such humanity that his books also give me the feels at the same time. That's not a flaw. It just means that I don't go to them for purely laugh-inducing reasons, like I might to Woodhouse. Richard Brodigan can be funny. Douglas Adams. Jack Pendarvis's column in The Believer is hilarious. And of course he writes for Adventure Time. That guy's hilarious. He might be inspired by Jack Handey too, I wouldn't doubt it. We were Twitter friends briefly. No, I think we were Twitter friends for a while. But then he got off Twitter. And now I can't get back into my Twitter. I'm locked out. So maybe I'm done with Twitter. I was on there for 12 years. Anyway, Musings and Thinkings is hilarious. It's hard. When you find funny stuff, you gotta keep it. I used to have lots of Onion books too. The Onion. I had all of them at different points. But that stuff hasn't aged particularly well. IMO. And again, I think it's almost fine with humor. It's just, I'm not always in the mood for like old jokes. Humor catches like something very of the time. The spirit of it, the zeitgeist for real. If you watch old stand-up comedy, it's excruciating. Even the supposedly like revolutionary stuff like Lenny Bruce, it's a drag. It's so hard to watch. So, with exceptions, there's humor to be found there, and if you can get into the mentality, you can find things. And I mean, I've watched so many documentaries about comedy, and they'll often find and isolate funny lines and so on. But I think it's almost fine, It's just it gets dated. That's why I think some comedians that have more of a one-liner style, their stuff tends to age a little better. George Carlin has aged well because he had like a really strong core notion of justice, and it was an idiosyncratic one, but it was him, inconsistent. So it did darken. That would be an interesting bookcase experiment. Funny books. probably used to, at times in my life, have had enough to fill a small case of funny books, but I don't think I do now. Maybe among the books for younger readers, there's some funny stuff. Calvin and Hobbes, for sure. Hilarious. Yeah, I guess I don't know enough funny works. I wish I knew more, to be honest. I would say I have some chapters of my book that have a lot of humor in them. I have one called 101 Jokes for Epileptic Children, and I used a joke book as the form for it. And so the sections are all different styles of jokes. It's very strictly nonfiction. It tells the story of my living as a kid in Arizona, in the single digits, and having a seizure disorder. Man, what a freaky life I've had health-wise. So it's kind of about, like, by treating epilepsy as if it's humorous, it like underlines, like, no, this wasn't humorous. It sucked. The irony sweetened it, I think, but also showed it to be a genuine, like, experience of suffering without seeming whiny or complaining, I hope. I did all this research and had access to old medical records and stuff for it. It's fantastic. It was published by the New Delta Review and won the Matt Smith's Editor's Prize. I think you can find it online. 101 Jokes for Epileptic Children. I don't know what name was on it at the time. I really wanted to be Mike Smith of Albuquerque because I liked how it was even more specific than my regular name. But editors just had a really big problem with it. They wouldn't do that. Oh, that's too weird. It'll confuse people. Like, it's my name. You can't edit my name. Tin House was not. They wouldn't use it. They put Mike Smith, and there's another Mike Smith that writes literary nonfiction and seems pretty good from what I've read. But what? Like, I was listed as notable in Best American Essays 2015, and it says Mike Smith, place names of 501 Filomeno, and then right next to it is Mike Smith, some other thing. And it's like, what? Tin House, you robbed me of my name. So ever since then, I've been using Michael Farrell Smith because you got to use a name that people can handle. And when you're writing really personal nonfiction, you can't, I don't think you should hide behind a pseudonym, because you're kind of like kissing and telling on the world when you write nonfiction. So, like, be accountable. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about Jack Handey. Such a funny writer. Y'all, the jungle grew darker and more mysterious. Bugs seemed buggier and the trees almost seemed alive. The sun was like a blazing ball of fire in the sky. I was so excited when this book came out. I guess I had a possessive book-owning chapter for a while, too. It's mine. Everyone wants my book. Give it back. What's going on there, man? I think, like, books used to have more, like, currency value. Nasty tag. I don't use that website. I don't know where that sticker came from. Maybe it's from when I did use that website. I don't remember ordering this. I just always say I don't want to support anybody who looks like 6/7 of their soul are hidden in objects around the world, Is Rafe Fiennes playing you? Yeah, I think it's funny. The people I find funniest are just my siblings. I think they're all like, I grew up with really funny people. Remember the Rob is the writer over at Sky. My sibling Jess, sister Jess, is just as is really funny too, in like an Andy Kaufman type style. He's done a lot of like invisible theater type things in life, art type things. Pretending to be a robot for a really long time, like months. VXR 608 12 20 27. I'll never forget that Android anti-elitist identification number, whatever that means. Or the invisible girlfriend that went everywhere with then Jeff. So funny. Once my then brother adopted a dirty muffler from the side of the road. There's too much backstory required for that story. Forget it. But humor is like music, the how it works ultimately. Like, I've read books on humor. I read Jimmy Carr's book on jokes and how jokes work. I've read, It's a subject I've like researched and that I frankly wish there was more to read about. But it's one of those things like music that you can reduce and you can study it and you can deconstruct it, and poetry, but you can't really at all. Because ultimately it's about the ineffable sum of its parts, you know, and the whole is greater than the parts, and it's the effect, and it's something real, and it's beyond the creator or creators of it often. Yeah, if I ever got famous, I would totally use my connections to meet and become friends with Jack Handey. Like an Ingrid Goes West type situation, maybe, if I just had the money. No, I'm just kidding. But Jack Handey is an awesome talent, and read the read interviews with the guy online, like the New York Times reviews. Interviews. There's good stuff out there. I think this guy has really brought something special to the written word. You know, aphorisms are really hard to write. They're really challenging. And writing hilarious, laugh out loud, LOL aphorisms, to me, that's an extra level. I feel like I've had moments of being able to access comedy in my writing, and it always feels like magical. But when I see people that have made a career out of it and been consistent with it, it's way impressive, I think. Jack Handey's great. Probably to know Jack Handey is to have a favorite deep thought or two. Yeah. Wouldn't be surprised to see one or two in the comments. Think of deep thoughts all the time. You know, like got all sorts of different kinds. Some of them are just so funny. He's got one that's like the rain on the roof sounded like urine splashing into a Texaco latrine. Which is actually good writing if you think about free indirect discourse and capturing a voice in your writing. If you were depressed, that could be what the rain sounded like to you. So funny. Many of his little bits of comedy are hilarious, like insights. It's funny. Sometimes telling on himself is the joke. It's great. Like he's got one that's like, isn't it funny when we go to the county fair, the first thing we do is look for some sort of pornography booth. Like, wait, I think sort of where he just keeps hitting hitchhikers. He can't stop doing it accidentally. Since hitting that last hitchhiker, I have accidentally hit 28 other hitchhikers. I don't know what's going on. Happy Fun Ball, where the warning list on this ball just keeps going. Palpitations. Happy Fun Ball. Okay, like you know how people do desert island music lists? If I could only pick like one author that I would to bring to an island, I'd definitely pick Jack Handey before Cormac McCarthy, probably. I don't know. One makes me laugh. I don't know. But then again, Cormac McCarthy's got more prose. I don't know. But I'd have to think about it. No, but I would love to meet Jack Handey sometime. Maybe collaborate or something. Just an incredible writer. All right. Take care, everybody. No, but I mean, the joy that this person's writing has brought me over the years, it's just immeasurable. It's a special sort of writer that can just make you guffaw. All right. Take care, everybody. Laters.